good morning, depending on where you are. Thank you for joining us today for our Acumatica Overview. My name is Jessica Canellis. I do the marketing here, so if you guys ever need any questions about any of the things that we offer, I am here to help. On this call today, we also have Jim Castellano, our president and owner. We have Gary Cerny, who runs our Intuitive division. We have James Cooey, who runs our Made to Manage division. And then we also have Jim McCormick, who does Acumatica, HR, payroll, time and attendance. And then if you guys are looking for any type of document management system, we have Brendan James. And so I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Jim McCormick so we can get started.
Thank you, Jessica. Jessica, can we see my slides at this point?
Give it 1 second. You should be able to do it now. Yes.
Okay. Well, thanks, Jessica. And good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our Acumatica Overview webinar. And really the big piece today is about why migrating from Made to Manage to Intuitive. Pretty much everyone on this call has one of those two ERP solutions. And I know you're utilizing PeopleSense as your consultant because we're one of the few companies that actually know both systems. And more importantly, we also know Acumatica. So kind of a quick agenda for today. Some quick introductions and an overview. We'll talk about what is Acumatica ERP and who they are. The challenges that you, our customers, have told us that you face when working with Made to Manage or Intuitive, and then we hear it from other customers using other ERP solutions. From there, I'm going to turn things over to Tim Lindsay for a demo, and then we'll just wrap it up with just a quick summary about Acumatica and questions and discussions from everybody. So in terms of introductions, as Jess said, I'm Jim McCormick. I'm the National Account Manager covering our Acumatica solution. And joining me is Tim Lindsay, our Senior Technical Consultant and Acumatica expert. And you have our contact information here as well. Most of you know PeopleSense, but I'll just take a second and go through a little bit about us. We were founded in 2003, so just celebrated our 23rd anniversary as a company. We've been an Intuitive and Made to Manage partner since 2010. So 16 years of experience with those two solutions. And we became an Acumatica partner in 2022. Biggest reason is Jim Castellano, the owner, was looking for another solution to better help our Made to Manage and Intuitive customers. And in looking at everything, the capabilities and the offerings from Acumatica were really what shown them to be the best solution. We are considered a gold level partner. We do have nationwide footprint, so we can handle anybody in the country, including and Canada. Two divisions within the organization is the ERP division, which includes Made to Manage, Intuitive, and Acumatica, and then our HR, payroll, time and attendance division. A little bit about Acumatica. Who are they? So Acumatica was founded in 2008, so they're just over 18 years old. And they focus on the needs of small and mid-sized businesses to drive their capabilities and to help them grow. And the biggest thing with Acumatica is this is a solution that was built in the cloud. It is a cloud-based solution that was built for the cloud as a modern ERP. This is not something that was originally a server, an on-premise solution, a desktop solution that got migrated. This was designed for full functionality within the cloud. Acumatica currently has over 10,000 customers globally. Regularly, they do customer satisfaction surveys, and they consistently rank in the highest numbers of customer satisfaction within the ERP software industry. And over the last 8 years, consistently, they are the fastest growing ERP company. A lot of this is attributed to customers who want to get into the cloud, but don't want a solution that kind of meets what they're already doing without going anyplace. And all it does is lose their data and put them up in the cloud. So challenges. These are things that you, our customers, have told us that you face every day with Intuitive, Made to Manage, and even other ERP solutions. Things like there are no dashboards on the solutions, and you don't have the ability to drill down into information easily. You have to go through many screens. Processes aren't automated. The ability to send an email to a customer, a quote, or anything like that, or even internally, directly from the system. You don't have drillable financial reports so that you can easily figure out where things came from. Similarly, you don't have the ability to upload files. So if you get more information in, putting it into the ERP solution can be a problem. Every ERP solution out there, except Acumatica, has licensing limitations. We'll talk about how Acumatica does its licensing a little later. But you always buying a certain number of user licenses and you're charged per user. Acumatica doesn't do that. They actually give unlimited licensing. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Made to Manage Intuitive have limitations in their planning and scheduling capabilities, and also a limitation where to truly work with companies that have multiple companies or multiple divisions, multiple locations, and have all that information in a single database, as well as the ability to look at everything individually and at a full scale level. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Tim for this will be a very high level overview of Acumatica, give you a good taste of it. But following this, we're happy to schedule an in-depth demo with you. And when we do that, we'd like to use your data to really show you how the processes work. So Tim, I'm going to turn things over to you.
And okay, can everybody see my dashboard?
There you are. I said you were a little quiet. Now we can hear you.
Okay, there we are. Okay. I'm going to try to, because I have limited time, I'm just going to try to hit some of that bullet points, those bullet points that Jim was sharing. And I thought a really good place to start was with this dashboard. I've worked with a number of other ERP systems, obviously most recently with Intuitive. And Acumatica basically has this dashboard capability built right into the product. So we don't need a third-party product in order to do data mining and present it in a graphical manner. These dashboards are actually part and parcel of the core product. The system comes with a number of pre-built dashboards. In this particular case, I'm looking at a sales dashboard that lets me zero in on one or more customers. And you can see that these graphic presentations, these little pictures are known as widgets. And behind each one of these widgets, there is a report that is pulling data directly from the database. You can set these up to refresh themselves periodically. You get to choose the time frame in which they refresh the data behind them. And they are drillable. So for example, you can see here that I've got an indication that right now I have 9 sales orders to ship. And if I click on that, oops, I was in too long and didn't log out, didn't log in again. Sorry about that. I was playing in here and walked away and it put to sleep. There we go. So now I can drill into the orders to ship, and the system takes me right to a list of the sales orders that make up that list of orders that are ready to ship. And then I can click on any of these highlighted fields, which are additional links, and I can actually get right into the sales order itself with all the details that I want to take a look at. So the dashboards are not only a way of presenting data that is periodically refreshed throughout the day and lets me get down to the nitty-gritty detail, but with the proper security clearance, I can also use the dashboards as a launching point for actually doing work. So in this case, the sales order is ready to ship. I can just go right here and say, okay, then let's go ahead and create the shipment, which means I am then going to create the pick list and create the paperwork to go down to the shipping area for them to pull the products and put them in a package and complete the shipment process. So the dashboards are a very powerful capability, both in terms of presenting KPI and other tracking information, but also as a launching point for these different functions that you want to perform. And these dashboards are customizable. You can use them out of the box, or you can change them, or you can build your own. So in all those cases, the dashboards are very flexible. They can be tied to user IDs. And in my case, this is actually the dashboard that I start with every time I log into the system. The second function that people felt were kind of shortfalls in their current ERP system was the automatic processes. One of the areas where this is very handy is, say, when you're running your MRP, or your what Acumatica calls inventory planning. So this is the form from which I would normally launch my MRP run. And by clicking on this process button up here, the system would go through the MRP planning process. But I can also set up a schedule so that I can tell the system, look, every morning at 2 a.m., for example, I want you to automatically run my MRP planning process. That way, when I come into work first thing in the morning, I have the latest and greatest information. There are a number of these processes that update data in the database, things like shipments and invoicing and purchase receipts and material issues to production orders and so forth. And these can be captured for review and then posted. And the posting is one of these processes that I can then set up to run periodically through the day. And this way I don't have to task my individual users with remembering to hit that update button. The system will do it in the background for me. One of the really nice features of Acumatica is the emailing capability. For example, let's say that I have a sales order in the system. And let's just filter these so I'm showing just the open sales orders. And I'll go into one of these sales orders. So I'm sitting in the sales order, and I would now like to provide my customer with a copy of the acknowledgement. Acumatica calls this acknowledgement the sales order. You're actually sending a copy of the sales order. Now, there's a couple ways that I can get this to my customer. One would be to just automatically email it. Now, within the customer record and the associated contact information associated with the customer, I've obviously captured an email address. So I could just click on email sales order. The system runs that process and sends it off to the customer. Or if I want to review the copy that I'm about to send for accuracy before I send it, I can click on what says print the sales order. But as part of the review screen, I can then click on the email button up here, and the system fires up this preview of the email. You can see who I'm sending it to. You can see the subject line. Over here is where the actual attachment is of the sales order PDF. And then down here in the bottom, we have some boilerplate that we've defined within the system where the sales order number is embedded, so that now the customer knows what they're getting. They can open up the file and take a look at their acknowledgement. And this email capability is available with any of what I think of as outwardly facing documents, packing slips, sales orders, purchase orders, that sort of thing. One of the capabilities that we're looking for is very often we have data that's coming into us electronically, things like acknowledgments from our vendors or perhaps new purchase orders from our customers. And in the past, we had to rekey a lot of that information, which not only took time and effort, but also opened up the possibility of what I refer to as fat finger syndrome, where information gets keyed badly or miskeyed. And so sometimes the ability to upload that information is handy. So if I'm entering a new sales order, you notice down here in the line area, there's this little indicator where I can now bring records in from an external file. And all it has to be is in some format, a CSV format or an Excel format. There is some field mapping that needs to go on to prepare these sources. But once that's prepared, I can have those out on the network and then come here and just pull that information right up into the file that I'm in the process of updating or entering in the system. So this upload capability is very powerful, and again is available throughout the system wherever I'm uploading data. Particularly handy if I'm pulling in bill of material information, for example, for my products. One of the bullet points that we saw, and I want to spend a little bit of time on this. This was a big problem that we had in the intuitive world, and I imagine in the made to manage world as well, but I'm not that familiar with it. Is we have multiple business entities that we would like to keep track of within the ERP system. In the intuitive world, if those entities needed their own set of books, if they each needed their own unique ledger, then they really needed to be set up in a separate database. And then if we wanted to do any kind of consolidated financial reporting, or if there was any intercompany activity, it got kind of clunky. You had to build your own custom reports for the financial reporting. You had to set up each company as not only a customer but a vendor, so you could buy and sell to each other, and it just got kind of awkward. Acumatica has all that multi-company, multi-division, and multi-location capability built right into it. So for example, up here at the top of my screen, you can see the structure that I have set up in my system. I actually have 3 companies in a single database. I have a retail division, with 2, or a retail company, products company with 2 divisions, a retail division and a wholesale division. I have a services company with 2 divisions, one east and west. And then I have a capital company where I'm managing money, maybe through investments or other financial tools. And so each of these is a separate company that has its own general ledger. Now, as long as I set the ledgers up so that they match each other in terms of structure and account numbering, I can produce individual company financial statements or consolidated financial statements. That takes care of multi-company and multi-division. And in fact, when I am booking things like sales orders and purchase orders, I can declare which company and which division this activity takes place in. In terms of multi-location, those locations might be set up under the umbrella of a single company, and those actually become multiple warehouses. And this is something that the intuitive users are probably familiar with, where I can have multiple warehouses with locations within those warehouses, and it's possible for me to transfer materials from one warehouse to another. And in fact, in the planning function, I can say, well, I have a demand in one warehouse that is actually going to be supplied from another warehouse. So those inter-warehouse exchanges can be defined. And that kind of capability is also available in Acumatica, where we can, in the planning parameters, say, well, this warehouse gets its goods or this particular item from another warehouse. In terms of planning and scheduling, Acumatica has pretty much everything that we would expect in terms of material planning. As I said, what Acumatica refers to is inventory planning, but that's what we would normally think of as MRP. And let me go to my favorites menu here. And when we, well, I thought I had that on we recently updated our version, and so don't have everything back on my order. Okay, so once I've run MRP, this is my inventory planning display. The intuitive people would see this as the version of the planned orders to start or the planner's workbench information. But this tells me whether I am going to be sourcing this as a production order or as a purchase order. And from this screen, I can drill down into it and look at the details, or I can launch the order, release the order. There is also an exceptions report. These are the things that we are used to saying, well, you have an open purchase order, but you need to pull it in because the customer has asked for an earlier delivery, or you need to push it out because we've changed the dates, or you can even cancel this order because you don't need the parts after all. In terms of scheduling, Acumatica can schedule orders based on either lead times that are defined at the item level, or it can use the times that are built into the routings. It can use those times to schedule in a manner that we think of as infinite capacity, where the system does allow work centers to get overloaded, and then you solve that overload problem. Or it can do what we call APS, which is advanced planning and scheduling, where it can actually pay attention to work center capacities and not overload them. And in that particular case, we have this production schedule board that will then show the work orders. Let's go to scheduled, and I'll click on this work order here, where I can review the work order, and then the system will actually show down below here which work centers have load in them, and how much time it's going to spend day by day. So that's pretty much all the bullet points. One of the bullet points was financial reports with drill down. I'm not a finance expert, so I wasn't ready to show you that here today. But if you want to, we can arrange a more detailed demo where we get into that in more depth. And then the other bullet point was the licensing issue, and I'll let Jim speak to that. So that's the quick and dirty high-level demo that I had. When we do an in-depth demo, as Jim indicates, we try to tailor it to your data and your business environment, and we spend much more time going into a lot of depth about the capabilities. But I do want to wrap up by saying that having worked with about 8 or 9 different ERP systems in the course of my career, Acumatica really stands out as an outstanding product in terms of both capability and quality, and I'm a fan. So that's my pitch, folks.
Thank you, Tim. I will pass it on back over to Jim.
So, folks, I hope this gives you an idea, at least at a high level, of the capabilities of Acumatica. Jess, do we have any questions that have come in? We've got a couple of minutes. We can probably take 2 or 3 questions.
Yes. So can Acumatica handle a company with different types of business, like construction, distribution, manufacturing, all bundled up together?
Absolutely. It's one of the nice things with Acumatica is this: they have several editions of the solution that tailor to the individual companies, because sometimes manufacturing and distribution don't need the things that construction does, but they can all work together seamlessly. In fact, we have one customer that has 7 companies with 3 different components: manufacturing, a retail division, and a construction division. They all function independently, but they all tie in together, so the reporting can all be done at the holding company level. So very definitely can handle any kind of combinations of companies.
Okay. And then can it handle multiple manufacturing processes, including made to stock, made to order, and engineer to order?
I'll give it a quick answer, but Tim, I'll let you give a more technical answer.
Okay.
Your answer?
Well, yeah, okay, yeah.
Just a verbal answer, Tim.
Right. The quick answer is yes. one of the major differences between those three models is really on the planning side. I mean, when the work gets out on the production floor, it seems to blend into the same approach. But make to stock, basically being driven by targeted inventory levels, can be supported. Make to order, you can actually create a production order directly from a sales order and link the two together and treat them as an individual job with multi-level planning. And in an engineer to order, that very often falls into the realm of project accounting, where we not only want to keep track of the schedule for production and material requirements, but also for the design. And we may even want to capture the cost for the design. And by bundling that all under the umbrella of a project, that can be accounted for too. So all three of those environments can be supported and be blended together into a single data environment. So yes, it can handle all three of those.
Okay, and then, so how is the data conversion managed from Intuitive to Acumatica?
Tim, do you want to take that? Because that's usually one that we have our implementation manager, Christine, handle.
Yeah,
She
it's
couldn't make it
well,
today.
yeah. Well, we showed you that upload capability, and so once we have those files, and you saw it was either CSV or Excel file. Once we have those files prepped via the extraction, I mean, pulling data out of Intuitive or M2M is pretty easy, and getting it into an Excel format is pretty simple. And then we can use those upload capabilities to pull information directly into the files that we want.
Okay, and then
Jess, we can probably pull in one more question, and then because I want to be respectful of everybody's time.
Okay. So I have about three. So if everybody is willing to stay, the three people that asked their questions.
Yeah, so go ahead.
Sure.
So how are RMA and service department handled?
Acumatica has a full function RMA capability where you can either provide I think of it as a permission slip. You know, you can provide a document to the customer that says, yes, we will accept it, and pull that, then use that as the launching point for the RMA process. Or you can simply provide them with a number, but in either case, we can then process the RMA inside Acumatica and make the disposition. Depending on how much quality and additional trend information that you want to capture, there may be a third-party quality package that integrates with Acumatica, but the basic RMA return and disposition function is there inside Acumatica.
Okay, and then is an ECR system built into Acumatica?
There is an engineering change capability as part of the engineering section of the Acumatica functionality. There's also interfaces available with the most popular CAD systems, so that if you're developing new items and new bills of material, or making changes to existing BOMs within your CAD system, then that you can use that interface. And it's up to you as to which side of that fence you manage the ECOs on. But regardless of where it originates, when it ends up in Acumatica, you do have full revision control and the ability to, I guess you could say, disable an old revision and start using the new revision, as well as running comparison reports between one rev and another.
Okay, and then just for time constraints, we're going to do one more, and then I will have Jim and Tim reach out for the other questions that are coming in, so everybody can get back to their very busy days.
Okay.
So does the system manage tariffs separately by line items?
Well, tariffs are a fairly new problem that most ERP systems are having to deal with, and they fall primarily into the financial area. So I'm afraid I'm going to have to defer that one to Christine. We certainly can handle tariffs in a number of different ways depending on what your accounting department wants to see. But it would be possible to list them as an additional line on the order. One of the things that Acumatica has that I know that Intuitive does not have is the ability to define non-inventory item IDs. And that might be one way to handle the tariff problem. I've had other customers who say, well, we'll just build that additional cost into the item cost. But again, it's up to how your accounting department wants to play it. But the capability, as far as I understand it, and I would ask Christine eventually to weigh in on this, but as far as I understand it, the capabilities are there to handle these tariffs.
It is. I know we have other customers who have it.
Okay, good,
So.
good.
Okay. I will let Jim finish real quick, and then we will, the rest of the questions, we will, they will email or call you to let you know the answers.
Right. So just kind of a quick wrap up here. Again, it's a very high level overview, so I'd love to get together with you for a more in-depth demo in here, but just some of the key things with Acumatica. As you saw, the interface is very intuitive. Menu down the left side, and then being able to link directly into things. The dashboards and accessing information quickly, and the manufacturing distribution workflow, and full end-to-end. One thing we didn't touch on, but very powerful AI capabilities within Acumatica. The big difference with Acumatica's AI capabilities, it's behind the firewall. So we're not exposing anything out to the public, but it's really set up to simplify your tasks. So as an example, since I'm a sales guy, I just say, as a salesperson, if I wanted to pull up all of the sales for ABC company, to just key that in, the system will automatically pull up all of that information for me. I don't have to run through a bunch of different reports and try to pull things together. The system will pull it right up for me and put it right at my fingertips. The unlimited licensing, which I mentioned earlier. Easiest way to think about this is the licensing with Acumatica is very similar to what you see with Azure or AWS, where it's based on how much capacity do you need. So we're not worried about, do I need 5 user licenses or 10? We worry about capacity. And that's a conversation we'd have in a little more in depth. And then obviously across multiple companies, locations, you have full access to the data. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone for their time today and for staying on a few extra minutes. I hope that this high-level overview has provided some key information on the capabilities of Acumatica. We look forward to having an opportunity to really go more in depth with you, to present a more detailed demo, ideally using your data, because we can put that into our demo system and show you how things would look like specifically for you. You have here our contact information. Again, mine, Jim McCormick, is the account manager. Tim, who is our solutions consultant. And since you know them and you probably talk to them on a fairly regular basis, I've included Jimmy Cooey on the made to manage side and Gary Cerny on the intuitive side. So please reach out to any of us. We'd love to hear your questions. Once this recording is put together, I will send out a link to everybody so you can review this at your leisure. But again, we'd love to get together with you for more in-depth demos. So please, if you don't hear from us first, don't hesitate. Contact me, Gary, Jim. We'll jump on it for you. So with that, I'm going to say thank you very much. Jessica, I think we're good, and you can say your thank yous and goodbyes, and we can end the meeting.
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for attending today. We will have this up and going at least by Monday. I know a few of you are all off for the holidays, but everyone have a great rest of your day, and thank you for joining.